Hello, Vice Chair, Chair Moore, and Regents. It's great to be here at Honolulu Community College today. I do want to acknowledge and thank Kalani Flores Hat, who, for those of us in the room, offered a welcome oli, mai kawai o niu helewai, for all of us in the room before the first meeting started. And that's an oli komo for the campus that was composed by now retired Kumu Olelo Hawaiʻi and pretty esteemed Kumuhula Kimo Alama Keolana, who was with Honolulu Community College. The opening line refers to the Niu Helewai stream that once ran through the campus. That means coconut moving water. And the stream was lined with coconut trees, which would drop the niu, the coconut, into the stream, which would then travel toward the ocean. And Chancellor Karen Lee reports to me that they look at Niu Helewai as a metaphor for the students who come to this campus and journey on as they embark after they leave. So mahalo for that. And for those of us fortunate enough to be in the room, we also received a beautiful makana made from coconut. I'm informed that these are from the same cluster of coconuts. So we are all bound here together today. First up, let me say a little bit about COVID. The numbers continue to be alarming, I will say, not cause for panic, but they are going up of cases. Our esteemed Director of Health, a fine UH alumna herself, has noticed that these are probably underreported due to the prevalence of home testing. So we are not out of the woods by any means. Fortunately, due to our high vaccination rate, especially within the university, we remain fairly healthy. Hospitalization rates within the state are still manageable for us. Last week, we did announce that we will be continuing our masking requirement that applies to indoor classrooms and closed instructional spaces through the summer. And I'll just say I came back from last evening from South Dakota. And if you've also been following the news from the Board of Education, I really want to express my appreciation to the Board of Regents for allowing the administration to manage this crisis, not just this week, but for the past several years, through what has turned fairly politicized in many states, and even within Hawaii. I think you have allowed our team to do a remarkable job, guided by the best health and safety guidance we could get from our faculty experts. So mahalo for that. That said, we will be continuing to urge everyone within the university community to get as vaccinated as you can. Pretty much everyone is eligible, not just for a full initial vaccination, but also for at least one booster, if not two, depending on age and underlying conditions. We are, as I mentioned, requiring masks indoors in instructional settings, and we are also encouraging use of masks by people in crowded settings, indoors. People just need to exercise common sense, as we urged at the beginning, avoiding unnecessarily large and unmanaged events, staying outside when possible, and perhaps most of all, please just stay home if you're sick. It may or may not be COVID, but there's no point in taking the opportunity to shed germs and share with others. And we have been learning from our experience to provide opportunities for people to work from home if they're just feeling the sniffles, but know they can work, stay home and work. And we have a policy in place to allow that, which is new. Secondly, let me report on the what we're calling the classification working group, the SCR 201 process that you asked us earlier this year to initiate. That's a group with some of us in the administration working with UPA leaders. And I'll just give you a quick update, as you requested each month. when you passed the directive to us on how to move forward, we broke the work down into 5 tasks. Our steering committee meets pretty much every week. We'll be getting together tomorrow again. So the 5 tasks, one is looking at unique issues when we have people who can, faculty who can no longer effectively teach and do research outside the scope of the periodic review. We now have a draft under discussion within our smaller working group, and we'll bring that forward to the steering committee and then for consultation. Second, pretty straightforward one was to work on a buyout policy. That is, how do we handle the situations when people have extramural funding and wish to, quote, buy out from teaching? We have a draft policy that's been developed, again, by a small working group, and we'll be looking at that. We also learned that Hilo actually has a policy that they've been using for several years. So we believe we can pretty easily bring those together into a policy. Third task is to simplify the classification system in the spirit of the sharing of the faculty senate, comparing us to other places. We have a faculty classification system unlike anywhere we've been able to identify in the country. So we have this broken into 2 pieces. One is the classification system for everyone other than what I'll call non-instructional faculty. Those are the specialists and the community college non-instructional faculty. We now have a draft of what that will look like that we will try to finalize. This is what looks at the so-called instructional faculty, or IMJNR, that we believe we can collapse into. We're thinking of using the novel letter F for faculty for that group. And the second task in this area, the 4th of the 5 overall, is the hardest of them, and that's to look at specialist and non-instructional community college faculty. I reported to you last month that we were identifying individuals who would be recommended by their faculty senates to work alongside the administration and UPA on this task. And as of our last steering committee meeting, we were still waiting for the recommendations from some of the campus faculty senates. We did let them know that we needed people who would be willing to work on the task over the summer. So we'll look forward to getting that work started. And it will be challenging and contentious, I can assure you. And the last of the tasks is to develop transition processes for those. 2 things that we committed to and you supported. One is that current faculty would not be impacted by changes, that the changes would be prospective. And the second thing was that we would provide opportunities for people to shift if they wanted to. So that's what this group will be working on, how to effectuate that transition moving forward after we understand what the new systems will look like. So continuing progress, and I'll be happy to keep reporting at each full Board of Regents meeting on how we're doing. And I do want to express my gratitude to everyone who's collaborating on these projects, both at the steering committee level and the task level. The next area I want to report on, and again, this is something that you asked for updates at every Board of Regents meeting, and that's progress on the strategic planning initiative. The steering committee has been created, as I reported last month. They are meeting bi-weekly. The significant activities over the past month have been the hosting of 4 town halls. These were designed for people within the university. We wanted to do this before the end of the semester when we had more attention from people. So those have now taken place. We had over 400 people inside RSVP to attend and provide feedback on priorities. We also administered a survey I had reported on last month. We have over 2,000 responses, which is pretty darn good, out of a community of roughly 60,000 students, faculty, and staff. We're now in the process of identifying key community stakeholders, and we're looking at opportunities for focus groups or other means of getting feedback from people outside the university. We know how important UH is to the future of the state. And that's the work that we'll be doing over the summer, including doing some initial drafting. And then as we have work, the hard work of drafting and processing this input, we will be looking at additional town halls and opportunities to engage with faculty, students, and staff in the fall as we have more people back. We also have a nice infographic of our accomplishments during the last strategic directions that we've been using since 2014. And I will send that link to the board office to share with all of the regents. It's a pretty nice summary. And lastly, on this item, I do want to highlight the support we're getting, financial support and intellectual support through philanthropic means. We report from time to time on some of the gifts and grants we got, but we've been doing pretty well at winning grants from both private and public sources to help us move forward as a university. I think the University of Hawaiʻi is getting a lot of attention on how we work together as a system, our work in diversity, equity, and inclusion, our work in Indigenous serving populations, and in serving Indigenous populations, and in particular Lumina, which is one of the major higher education foundations in the country, is supporting us through a program they have called Talent, Innovation, and Equity. That will be a new award, and they're interested in helping us develop new strategic goals relating to attainment, equity, and service to populations that need assistance to get people into the workforce. And they will also provide us support for data systems that help us track progress toward these goals. And that overlaps also with support that Lumina provided to us beginning earlier this year for something called the SHIO Attainment Academy. And that's an award. Both of these are awards to us as a state. But since the UH system is all public higher education in the state, we represent the state in pretty much all these higher education initiatives. SHIO is the state higher education executive officers. Those are the 50 people most responsible for higher education across the states. And they selected us to provide us with some financial support for participation and also consulting to support. And we're working on a new attainment goal. So if you think about the attainment goal for this state for over 15 years, we've used the 55 by 25 target that we wanted 55% of the working age population of the state to have a college degree of some kind, associate or a bachelor's degree or higher. Our thinking right now, and it's really informed by some of what you heard from Steve Schatz earlier around workforce and connections to industry, is we really want to look at something that isn't just about holding a piece of paper that represents some certification, but we are looking at an attainment goal that is more directly related to talent. And I'll just read you one sentence of what we are thinking about, and we will come back to the board over the next month or two for a more complete conversation. But I thought it was fitting with both this conversation, but also Steve's report earlier to the SBCTE. As an isolated island state, Hawaii's future will rise and fall based on the talent of our people. Our aspiration is a Hawaii where educational pathways lead to fulfilling careers throughout the islands. Employers, entrepreneurs, and educators view each other as true partners and ensure clear alignment among credential programs, high demand employment opportunities, and Hawaii's vision for a dynamic, diverse, and sustainable economy. And we've got more words, but you probably get the flavor of it. So we would like to lead with something qualitative, and then we will come up with some quantitative metrics that help us look at our progress. So that's a little bit of a teaser on where we are there. But the philanthropic support is really helping us with the strategic planning, and we also expect to bring in some outside help to assist us with that work. Next, I want to update you on employment agreements for employees and students. We had reported to you in an executive session on where negotiations were standing. Now we can report in public the results of everything, and much of this has been reported. I will just say we settled with UPA, our faculty union, on a new agreement. And for all of these, the only changes were financial. The negotiations were kept simple by not looking at any other provisions. But the basic framework of the agreement is a 1% retroactive increase from July 1, 2021, 3.72% increase effective July 1, 2022, then 5% on July 1 of each of the next 2 years. So I didn't do the math on compounding, but that is in the 15% increase over a 4-year period. It is also nice that it is a 4-year contract, so we won't be back with the required financial bargaining in the very near future. Our APTs, that's the other unit that are special to us. That's the HDE Administrative Professional Technical Group. They accepted an identical offer, which is great, as did the other HGA units and UPW units, pretty similar. So those are secretaries, clerks, groundskeepers, and the like, who are employed by HGA or represented by HGA and UPW respectively. The minimum wage law has been passed by both chambers. Pretty significant increases in minimum wage at the very end of session. It goes up to $12 an hour. It's I think $10.10 right now, $12 on October 1 of this year, and then up to $14, $16, and $18 by January 1, 2028. So pretty significant increases. We are bound by the minimum wage law for our student employees. And student employment is really important to us, both because many of them go on to work in the university. They're a huge asset to us in getting our work done. But we also know from both local and national data that working on campus is a really effective retention strategy for students. They are more likely to stick with us as students if they're working on campus rather than, say, a fast food place. So we, as a matter of practice, we set our minimum student employment wage at 50 cents above the state's legal minimum wage. And we have agreed we will be doing that moving forward. So we'll be updating our student employment pay scale to go 50 cents above minimum wage. And we do have many steps that go far above that, but those will be the entry level minima. And finally, let me mention the work we've been doing related to graduate assistants. Graduate assistants tend to be, or GAs tend to be, mostly 50% employees while they're in graduate school earning their degrees. Some are 25% employees. We have in the past requested legislative support for salary increases for them. We have not been successful in getting outside money, but after a discussion relating to what was going on with all of our other employees, whether unionized or not, our student employees are not unionized, nor are our graduate assistants. We have agreed that we will follow a practice we've used in the past of stopping the use of some of the lower level ranges of the GA pay scale. So at UH Manoa, we currently, we first eliminated use of the first 5 steps under Chancellor Apple. Then on my watch, we eliminated use of steps 6 and 7. So the minimum step is now actually step 8. And over the next 3 years, we will eliminate use of 1 step each year. So we'll eliminate step 8 this semester, and then next fall, the coming semester, and next fall, we'll eliminate one each time. Again, there are still steps above, so GAs can get increases as they grow in their jobs, but the minimum will be increasing, and in this case, it'll be by about 4% per year, which is the distance between the steps. And on a related matter, I want to say, traditionally, we've had a policy that says graduate student assistants do not work when sick. And we emphasized this to supervisors during the pandemic, especially, and they're not docked pay. There was not a formal sick leave policy. The UH Manoa Graduate Student Association organization, GSO, has been clear with us that they would prefer formulaic sick leave that has pluses and minuses, but that's their preference. We accepted this input and worked closely with GSO on a policy, and we have completed that work. So we will have formal sick leave for our graduate assistants starting this fall. It will be exactly the same proportion as all other employees. So we earn, at this point, 21 days a year, or 1 3/4 day per month. So a half-time graduate assistant will earn half of that, just as would a half-time faculty member or a half-time staff member. And that will be in place for the fall. And we made some adjustments to the logistics of that. The numbers are promising, and we're hoping. It's a real challenge, though, as we watch inflation. I'll just say it isn't like anyone will be made wealthy through any of these increases. I think everyone will still be struggling to manage in an environment where inflation is questionable. Let me just give you some quick updates on some of the numbers I like to report on. Today is 95 days before the first day of instruction. System-wide headcount registered enrollment is down about 2.7%. We're not particularly happy about that, and everybody's working hard on it. As usual, the numbers are different across our units. Manoa is actually up about 10%. All other units are down. We will see ebbs and flows between now and the start of semester. I'll just say the Manoa leadership team is wrestling with a problem we are looking forward to having, which is, we need to make sure we staff up both for teaching and for support of what looks like it will be potentially, once again, our largest entering class ever. If not largest, it will certainly be close to our record class of last fall. And we do need to make sure we're ready to support them. Our research funding as of this morning was at about just under 449 million. That's an increase of about 6% compared to last year, same day. All major units are up in this area, all our major academic units. And as Vasilis reported at the last Research and Innovation Committee meeting, we are on track to break $500 million for the first time this fiscal year. So congratulations to everybody. And again, I mean everybody across the system. I want to highlight just one significant award that we announced earlier this week, and that's the so-called EPSCoR Award. This is a National Science Foundation program that Hawaii has been participating in for just about 15 years or so now, 15 to 20. And this is a $20 million 5-year award, so large number, and it lasts a long time. And it's intended to stimulate research. And what we have done is we have brought together 2 areas in a really creative and interesting proposal to support actionable climate science with data science. And so climate science is an area of vital importance to Hawaii, where we have remarkable expertise across the UH system. Data science is an area, if you had asked me 5 years ago, I would have said we were weak, and it's really important. And I will just say, with concerted effort, especially at UH Hilo and UH Manoa, we have really built up some strengths And we've opened positions in this area as a strategic priority, and we are competing really well for top tier talent, both nationally and internationally. So this one really, it's a great mesh. It has participants across the UH system and in the community. Chaminade has been a great collaborator with us in this work for over 5 years now. And we're also looking at workforce development in both of these areas. Not only is climate science important to everybody across the state, but data science is one of those areas that is important to hospitals, to banks, to insurance companies, in academia to support our research mission, and to innovation as we look at new startups. So this one is great. And just this morning, I learned of another award quite related from the National Science Foundation, much smaller, but $400,000 for a project called Compute Co-op, which will increase our capacity in flexible high performance computing resources. So this provides us with actual supercomputers that all of the people working on these projects can use to advance climate science through data science. There are 8 projects, and I'm just going to quickly give you a sense of the technologies that they will be using. So there are 8 specific projects that will be using computational simulations, data visualization, natural language processing, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and statistical modeling. So you get the idea of the scope of the work that will be going on. It's pretty remarkable. Lastly, I want to mention an instructional project. From time to time, you hear some of our campuses talk about their use of open educational resources or zero-cost textbooks. And a lot of this work goes on at the campus level to adopt existing OERs or zero-cost textbooks within their campuses. And Leeward has traditionally been the campus leader of this, although we've got projects going on throughout the UH system. We've been working on a project, a system-wide project for 2 years now. And this is in the area of anatomy and physiology. And physiology 141 and 142 have each been using full-length textbooks that cost typically $160 to $210 for each course. And these courses are required across a wide range of disciplines, nursing, medicine, pharmacology, dental hygiene, radiology technicians, physical therapists, physical therapy assistants, respiratory therapists, as well as the diversifications in gen ed in the biological sciences. So we assembled a group of faculty to work together to create a single text for both courses for the University of Hawaiʻi. We had a core team of 11 instructors, plus 26 additional anatomy and physiology instructors, all 10 campuses. These 37 faculty came from all 10 campuses. And they have now created a text that they have localized the content so that our students will be more connected to what goes on. And we have the option, because we own it, to continue to enhance and build it and iterate over time, including Indigenous content. Some is in there now, and we can keep adding. So I'm just going to give you a number. Our enrollment last year in these 2 courses, headcount enrollment, over almost 4,700 students. So we picked it because it was a large enrollment and 2 expensive textbooks. Our estimate is that students are now paying on average, doing the math about average cost of textbooks in that number, $433,000. And that will go to zero. That was an investment by us of about $120,000 to get us to this point. We brought in an outside company that has experience in facilitating this work. They've been really successful in helping us, so we're really happy to pay them to help make us effective. We're also curating the graphics. As you can imagine, it's pretty intense set of graphics for this that now we will own and can use in this and other parts of it. So I just want to thank a couple of people. Dr. Cheryl Shook from Kapiolani Community College, which by the way has the highest enrollment of any of our campuses in anatomy and physiology. So a natural leader for this, but she's been amazing in leading this effort with all of our faculty from across the system. And this has been one of the initiatives under the leadership of Heioki Moto, who serves, she's got 2 appointments, one in ITS, where she leads instructional and academic technologies. One is Associate Vice President for Student Affairs out of the VPAPP office. And she, unfortunately for us, but fortunately for her, will be retiring June 30. So we're going to have to find one of her successors to carry on this work in whichever half of her job it ends up with. So with that, let me thank Honolulu Community College. Thank you for the amazing AV support. This is great here. The regents in the room are enjoying really superb viewing of screens and content and each other. Over to you, Chancellor Karen.